I wouldn't have done this conversion had I not thought that this was a really good airframe, and it is a really good airframe. So I'm happy that I did it. It feels like a new warbird now. This warbird is now the most powerful warbird that I have. All right, so I wanted to go over the things that I did to get this plane converted to 3S and flying the way I wanted it to fly, with the amount of power and the amount of flight time that I was going to be happy with, and also have the gyro in it that I wanted. Okay, so I found that this stock motor paired up with the Gemfan Flash 6042, and I was amazed at how well that stock motor could spin that prop and do it efficiently. So that is my prop of choice. Once I had that tested, knew that was the prop I was going to use on 3S, I went ahead and modified my spinner so that my spinner fit nice and, custom over top of this prop. But that worked out extremely well. The ESC that I used is an old FET Favorite 20 amp opto ESC. I converted it to a non-opto ESC by attaching a 5 volt 3 amp switching voltage regulator to it. Now, you guys probably don't want to have to do that, so I have a link to a 15 amp, a lightweight 15 amp ESC in the show notes. All right, I wanted a hobby grade ESC. I love the RadioLink Byme-A gyros. I've never had a problem with these gyros. They're plug and play. There's nothing that you have to configure on them other than setting up your switches on your transmitter for the different gyro modes. And I have a lot of these gyros now. I don't know. I order them typically 4 to 6 at a time, and I know I've ordered these at least 4 times. So I would say I've got somewhere between 16 to 20 of the Byme-A gyros, and I've probably got 8 to 12 of the Byme-D gyros. But that's how much I like them, man. That's the Byme-A gyros, the Byme-A and the Byme-D and the Byme-DB gyros are my go-to gyros for all of my planes. So I've got one of those in it. My ESC of choice, or my receiver of choice to use with these gyros is the WFly RF201S. It's diversity antennas. It's very lightweight. I've never had a problem with one of these. You can use them with the multi-module. It doesn't require any RF frequency tuning. You can set up custom failsafe right within the transmitter. It's easy to bind up to. I've never had a problem with one of these receivers, and they're very inexpensive. And I've got a lot of these too. I order these. I order 4 to 6 of these every time that I order 4 to 6 of the Byme-A gyros, because I just pair these up together. So I've got just about as many of these as I do my Byme gyros. All right, the servos that I use, like I stated that the aileron servos are still stock. And I believe that those are all 2-gram servos. So I replaced the ones that were on the board. If I remember correctly, I think there was 2 servos on the board, and I replaced those with 2-gram analog servos. At least I think they're analog servos. I don't think they're digital. From some aircraft that I had salvaged these from after I retired it. So I used 2 of those. They worked out just fine for the elevator and the rudder servos. I set them up in the same place, the same location where the other 2 servos were, so I didn't have to do anything, to modify the control rods. If I remember correctly, I just used the existing control rods because I installed these servos in the same place that the stock servos were located in. So everything matched up just fine. Okay, so here is a picture of my equipment bay, my battery bay and equipment bay. So if you look at where my Byme-A gyro is located, it was almost like this airframe was designed for the components that I chose to put in it. So this little cutout here for the wiring to get into the battery bay here, the Byme-A gyro fit in that little cubby right behind this foam firewall here, and the front comes right out here where you've got easy access to the phase button if you need to change anything on the phase button. I mean, it fits right in there. I've got my ESC and my receiver located underneath the underneath the Byme gyro and that same little open area here, you know, between the wing and the fuselage. So that's where I've got all that stuff located, which freed up all this area in here for just the battery, and it worked out great. On my ESC, I went ahead and attached a servo connector to the motor leads to the motor leads coming off the ESC, since the motor already had a servo connector attached to it, and that just made it simple. If I need to change the rotation of the motor, all I have to do is disconnect it, rotate one end 180 degrees, connect it back up, and you've got the motor rotating in the opposite direction. So that worked out really well. These batteries that I'm using in here, I mean, I push it really hard. If you guys have watched any of the flight videos, and there's a link to the playlist in the show notes. If you want to see how this is performing on 3S, it is absolutely fantastic. But these batteries, these GNB 3S 530 milliamp hour 90C/180C LIPOs, this is the 5th airframe that I have used these LIPOs in. So these LIPOs for me have turned out to be extremely versatile batteries. I've got a 4-pack of them. I really need to pull the trigger on another 4-pack. I may actually go ahead and pull the trigger on the 550s rather than the 530s. They're just slightly larger. But I think that the 550s, just like the 530s, I think they will work in all those airframes. So, and it gives you just a little bit larger gas tank than the 530s, you know, with the 550s. So this has worked out really well. The way I have everything positioned, you know, with the spinner on the front, the battery where it's located, and it fits in there nice and snug. Just like I said, just like this airframe was designed for all these components that I use for this 3S power and gyro modification, and it gets the CG right where it needs to be. So it all worked out flawlessly. You don't usually have conversions like that where everything works out that well and everything meshes and fits that well, but this one did. So I wanted to share this information with you guys. Now we're back at the beginning. So like I said, there are links to all the components either that I have used or that I would use, since some of the components I use aren't available anymore. But links to all the components to do everything that I did to this plane to get it flying with a hobby grade receiver, a hobby grade gyro, and 3S power is in the show notes. There's links to everything in the show notes. There's a link to the playlist in the show notes. So if you have not watched any of the 3S flight videos, take a look at those. I think I've got at least 2 of them published so far. One of them on TinkerzLab, one of them on Ground Control RC. So there's at least 2 flight videos with 3S power that I've posted so far, and you're gonna be stunned. I mean, it has unlimited vertical, and it's very, very fast now. I don't think I've changed anything on my setup. I'm using the same setup that I published 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think I published my setup for this with the hobby grade transmitter. I haven't changed anything on it. I think I'm going to keep everything the way it is. So anyway, that's a wrap on this episode. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you next time in the Tinkerz Lab.